The first sign that my wife was cheating wasn't lipstick on her collar. It wasn't a suspicious phone call. It wasn't even the late nights at work. It was the way my best friend stopped looking me in the eyes. His name was Daniel. For 17 years, Daniel had been more than my best friend. He was the man who stood beside me when my father died. He was the godfather of my daughter. He was the person I called when my marriage was falling apart. And apparently, he was also the man my wife had been sleeping with behind my back. I found out on a rainy Tuesday night in October, and what I did next made both of them believe I had completely lost my mind. I didn't scream. I didn't punch Daniel. I didn't throw my wife out. Instead, I looked at them both and said 4 words. "Okay, you can have everything." They smiled. They thought they had won. They had no idea what everything was going to cost them. My name is Michael Carter. I was 42 years old when my marriage ended. My wife, Rachel, was 39. We had been married for 14 years and had 2 children, 16-year-old Emma and 12-year-old Noah. From the outside, we looked like one of those ordinary American families people assumed had everything figured out. We lived in a quiet neighborhood outside Columbus, Ohio. We had a comfortable house, 2 cars, a backyard where Noah played baseball, a kitchen where Rachel used to bake chocolate chip cookies on Sunday afternoons, and photographs everywhere. Christmas photographs, beach photographs, birthday photographs, family photographs, 14 years of memories hanging on walls. Or at least I thought they were memories. Looking back, some of them were evidence. The strange thing about betrayal is that it doesn't always begin with a shocking discovery. Sometimes it begins with tiny things you explain away. Rachel started guarding her phone. At first, I didn't think much of it. Everyone has privacy. Then she changed her password. Again, I didn't question it. Then she started taking phone calls outside. Work, she'd say. Sometimes she'd come home late. Traffic. Sometimes she'd shower immediately after coming home. Long day. And sometimes I'd wake up at 2 in the morning and find her sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at her phone. "Everything okay?" She'd smile. Of course. I believed her. Because when you love someone, you don't want to become a detective. You want to trust them, and trust can make you blind. Daniel had been part of our family for almost as long as Rachel had. We met in college. He was the funny one. I was the serious one. He could walk into a room full of strangers and leave with 10 new friends. I trusted him completely. When Emma was born, Daniel was in the hospital. When Noah was born, Daniel drove Rachel home because I had stayed behind to finish paperwork. When my father died, Daniel slept on my couch for a week because he didn't want me to be alone. I considered him my brother. Rachel knew that. Maybe that's what made the betrayal so much worse. It wasn't just that my wife had found another man. She had chosen the one person she knew I would never suspect. The first real warning came from Emma. One evening, she was sitting at the kitchen table doing homework when she suddenly asked, "Dad? Yeah? Are you and Mom okay?" I looked at her. "Why wouldn't we be?" She shrugged. "You've been sleeping in the guest room." I froze. I hadn't realized she'd noticed. Rachel and I had been arguing more often. Nothing dramatic, just small disagreements that seemed to appear out of nowhere. She said I worked too much. I said she was distant. She said I didn't listen. I said she didn't talk. Eventually, I'd started sleeping in the guest room because neither of us wanted to continue fighting. "I guess your mom and I have just been stressed," I told Emma. She looked at me for several seconds. Then she said something I'll never forget. "Mom seems happy when Daniel comes over." My stomach tightened. "Why would you say that?" "I don't know." She lowered her eyes. "They just seem different." I forced a smile. "Daniel is family." Emma nodded. But she didn't look convinced. Neither was I. A week later, I started noticing things. Rachel knew Daniel's schedule. Daniel knew Rachel's favorite coffee order. They laughed at jokes I didn't understand. When Rachel needed something fixed around the house, she called Daniel before calling me. When Daniel hosted a barbecue, Rachel spent most of the afternoon helping him in the kitchen. Once, I walked into the garage and found them standing unusually close together. They immediately stepped apart. "Everything okay?" I asked. Daniel laughed. Yeah, man. Just talking. Rachel smiled. About the barbecue. I nodded. I wanted to believe them. So I did. That night I lay awake until nearly 4 in the morning. Something felt wrong. But I had no proof. And without proof, suspicion can destroy a marriage just as quickly as cheating can. So I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself I trusted my wife. I told myself I trusted my best friend. I was wrong about both. 3 weeks later, everything changed. It happened because of a restaurant receipt. Rachel had gone out for dinner after telling me she was meeting her sister. Her sister lived 3 hours away, so when I accidentally found a receipt from a restaurant, 40 minutes from our house, I thought maybe she'd stopped somewhere on the way home. Then I saw the date. It was the same night she had told me she was staying at her sister's house. The receipt was for 2 expensive dinners, and at the bottom was a handwritten note. Same table next Friday? I stared at those words for almost a minute. Then I recognized the handwriting. Daniel's. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I started paying attention. And once I started looking, the truth became impossible to ignore. I noticed messages disappearing from her phone. I noticed Daniel suddenly became protective of his own phone. I noticed they were both nervous whenever I entered a room. Then one afternoon, I made a decision. I wouldn't accuse them. I would wait. Because if they were innocent, I didn't want to destroy my family over suspicion. But if they weren't, I wanted the truth. All of it. The truth arrived on a Tuesday night. Rachel told me she was going to bed early. I was downstairs watching television when her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. She had forgotten it. I wasn't looking for anything. At least that's what I told myself. Then I saw Daniel's name. The message preview said, "I can't keep pretending this isn't real." My heart stopped. Another message appeared. "Tomorrow night. Same place. We need to talk." I stood there staring at the screen. My hands were shaking. I didn't open the phone. I didn't need to. I already knew. I walked upstairs. Rachel was lying in bed. "Who is Daniel?" She went completely still. "What?" "You heard me." She sat up. "Why are you asking?" "Because I think you know why." Her face changed. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she started crying. Not the kind of crying I'd seen when someone was heartbroken. The kind of crying people do when they've been caught. "Michael." "How long?" She covered her face. "Please." "How long?" 8 months. 8 months. 8 months of lying. 8 months of sleeping beside me. 8 months of telling our children that everything was normal. 8 months with my best friend. I sat on the edge of the bed. I couldn't even feel angry. I just felt empty. Then I asked the question that mattered most. "Does Daniel know you're telling me?" She shook her head. "No." I stood up. "Okay." She looked at me. "Okay." I nodded. "Don't tell him." "Why?" I looked at her. "Because I want to hear what he says when he thinks I don't know." The next morning, I called Daniel. "Hey, man," he said cheerfully. That almost broke me. I said, "Can you come over tonight?" "Sure. Everything okay?" "Yeah." I lied. "Just need to talk." He arrived around 7. Rachel was upstairs with the kids. Daniel walked into the living room. He smiled. Then he saw my face. "What happened?" I pointed to the chair. "Sit." He sat. I stood across from him. "How long?" He stared at me. "What are you talking about?" 8 months? His face went white. That was all the confirmation I needed. He whispered my name. "Michael." I laughed. Not because anything was funny. Because sometimes your brain doesn't know what else to do. "You slept with my wife." He lowered his head. "I'm sorry." "You're sorry?" "Yes." "You were my best friend." "I know." "You were Emma's godfather." "I know." "You sat at my father's funeral." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "I know." I walked to the window. For several seconds, I couldn't speak. Then I turned around. "You know what the worst part is?" He said nothing. "I would have given you anything. Silence. Money, a job. My house if you needed it. I would have helped you if you were dying." I swallowed. "But you wanted my wife." Daniel looked at the floor. Then he said something I'll never forget. "We love each other." I closed my eyes. There it was. The sentence cheaters use when they want to turn betrayal into romance. "Then you can have her." He looked up. "What?" "You heard me." I walked over to the desk and picked up a folder. "I'll make this easy." He stared at me. "What are you doing?" "I'm giving both of you exactly what you want." The divorce process started 2 weeks later. Rachel expected screaming. She expected lawyers. She expected me to fight over every dollar. Instead, I was calm. Too calm. I told her she could keep the house. She could keep most of the furniture. She could keep the SUV. I asked for joint custody of the kids. Nothing more. Her lawyer actually called me unusually cooperative. Rachel looked suspicious. "Why are you making this so easy?" I smiled. "Because I don't want to spend the next 5 years fighting you." She didn't know the truth. I had already discovered something. The house wasn't worth what she thought. Neither was the SUV. And the business we had built together? That was where everything changed. For 11 years, I had owned a small commercial construction company. It wasn't glamorous, but it was profitable. And over the years, Daniel had become involved as an outside contractor. Rachel knew almost nothing about the business. She thought Daniel was simply helping me occasionally. She didn't know I had spent years building a network of clients. She didn't know most contracts were tied to my personal reputation. And she certainly didn't know that 6 months earlier, I had started a completely separate company with a different partner. I hadn't planned it as revenge. But when my marriage collapsed, I realized something. I didn't have to destroy them. I simply had to stop protecting them. Rachel and Daniel moved into an apartment together. They were convinced they were starting a new life. Our children were devastated. Emma barely spoke to her mother. Noah didn't understand why Dad and Mom no longer lived together. One night, Noah asked me, "Did Mom leave because of Daniel?" I sat beside him on his bed. He looked terrified. I hugged him. "None of this is your fault." "But is Mom coming back?" I couldn't lie. "Nobody." He started crying. I held him until he fell asleep. That was the moment my anger changed. I didn't want revenge anymore. I wanted my children to be okay. And I wanted to become someone they could be proud of. 3 months passed. Then 6. Rachel and Daniel's relationship began falling apart. Apparently, dating someone secretly was very different from living with them. They fought over money. They fought over the children. They fought over the fact that Daniel couldn't get the lifestyle they had imagined. Rachel eventually realized something. The life she had left wasn't waiting for her anymore. Meanwhile, my life was changing. My new company grew faster than I expected. A major developer offered us a contract worth several $1,000,000. I hired more employees. I bought a smaller house closer to my kids' school. And for the first time in years, I started sleeping peacefully. Then came the phone call. It was Rachel. "Can we talk?" "About what?" "Us." "There is no us." "I know." Her voice cracked. "I made a mistake." I closed my eyes. "What do you want?" "I want my family back." I didn't answer. She continued. "Daniel left. That didn't surprise me. He said he never loved me the way he thought he did." I stayed silent. Then she said, "Michael, I know I destroyed everything, but I finally understand what I lost." I looked through the window at the backyard. My kids were playing basketball. "I hope you find peace, Rachel." She started crying. "Is that it?" "Yes." "You don't hate me?" I thought about it. "No." She seemed surprised. "I don't hate you anymore." "Then why won't you take me back?" I answered honestly. "Because forgiveness doesn't mean returning to the place where you were broken." She didn't say anything. Then she whispered, "I miss you." I replied, "I miss who I thought you were." And I ended the call. A year later, something unexpected happened. I received a letter from Emma. She was 17. She wrote, "Dad, I used to think your divorce meant our family was broken. Now I think it taught me what real strength looks like. You never told us horrible things about Mom. You never asked us to hate her. You just kept showing up. You came to my games. You helped Noah with homework. You worked. You cooked. You kept your promises. And I finally understand something. Being strong isn't about getting revenge. It's about refusing to become the kind of person who hurt you. I'm proud you're my dad. I read that letter 3 times. Then I cried. Not because I was sad. Because after everything I'd lost, I realized what I'd gained. 2 years after the divorce, I saw Rachel again. It was at Noah's high school graduation. She was sitting several rows away. We looked at each other. There was no anger, no hatred. Just 2 people who had once loved each other and now belonged to different lives. After the ceremony, she approached me. Michael. Rachel. She smiled sadly. You look happy. I am. I'm glad. I believed her. She looked older. Not physically. Emotionally. Life had humbled both of us. I heard your company is doing really well. It is. I'm happy for you. Thank you. She looked toward our children. They love you. I smiled. They love us both. She nodded. Then she said, I used to think you were giving me everything because you were weak. I looked at her. She continued, Now I realize you were strong enough to walk away. I didn't answer. She smiled. Goodbye, Michael. Goodbye, Rachel. She walked away. And for the first time, I didn't feel anything pulling me backward. People often ask what my revenge was. They expect me to say I ruined Daniel, or that I destroyed Rachel financially, or that I exposed them publicly. But that's not what happened. My revenge was quieter. I stopped protecting people who betrayed me. I stopped begging someone to love me. I stopped measuring my worth by whether my wife wanted another man. I rebuilt my life. I became a better father. I built a successful business. I learned to trust myself again. And most importantly, I refused to let their betrayal turn me into someone bitter. Rachel and Daniel thought they were taking everything from me. My marriage, my best friend, my old life. They were right. They took all of it. But they accidentally gave me something in return. The chance to build a life that didn't depend on people who could walk away from it. And sometimes, the greatest revenge isn't watching the people who hurt you suffer. Sometimes it's waking up one morning and realizing, you don't care anymore. You're happy. You're free. And the life they tried to destroy became the life you never would have had without leaving them behind.